Welcome back. In part 1, we looked at the last 30 years and the reports produced by scientists through the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. In this part, we look at the future and what we can expect over the coming decades as a result of climate change. Now let's look at the latest report from 2014. Each of the last 3 decades has been successively warmer at the Earth's surface than any preceding decade since 1850. The rate of sea level rise since the mid-19th century has been larger than the mean rate during the previous 2 millennia. This is due to melting glaciers and increasing water temperature. So temperature and sea levels are rising. This graph shows the global average temperature to today. In Canada and in Russia, due to our northerly latitude, it is double this rate, and in the Arctic it is 3 times this rate. Climate change has been happening for many decades, even as far back as the 19th century. More recently, it has become more extreme, and it is increasing exponentially as more fossil fuels are burned. Even today, the fossil fuel industry remains a growth industry. More barrels of oil are being sold year over year. Now let's look at what has been observed to date as a result of climate change. So we've looked at the causes, now let's look at the effects. This is what scientists have attributed directly to human-caused climate change. To human-caused climate change. And these are effects as they are happening today and in the past few decades. So we're seeing lower crop yields as a result of climate change. We're seeing tree mortality, an increase in the frequency and intensity of droughts, windstorms, fires, and pests. Snow melts earlier and provides an earlier spring peak flow of water. Increased frequency and intensity of daily temperature extremes. An increase in heat waves in Europe, Asia, and Australia. I live in British Columbia, in Canada, and we are experiencing more forest fires here every year. And this is true throughout the world, where there are forests. And these are due to climate change. It's now normal in the summer here to smell burning forests and have the sun obscured by smoke, even in our cities. In the Philippines, Japan, and many other countries throughout the world, they are experiencing extreme weather conditions. Now, extreme weather conditions did happen in the past, but now they are occurring more frequently and with more intensity. Climate change is the cause of this. And the predictions are in 20 years' time, what we experience now as extremes will become norms. So it will be normal behaviour to have what we now experience as extreme weather conditions. Here in Canada, due to earlier snow melts, we are experiencing water shortages in the summer, which is also exacerbated by evaporation due to higher summer temperatures. My family in the UK have observed increasing heat waves and of longer duration. My wife's family in Japan report that summers are now unbearably hot and humid. So it affects us all, every one of us. Now let's have a look at the future. These are also from the IPCC assessment report, the latest one of 2014. So the red line here is what is likely to happen if we do nothing and continue business as usual. The blue line is what could be achieved if we aim to keep within 2 degrees of pre-industrial temperatures. Now notice this blue line that even if we keep the temperature within 2 degrees of pre-industrial levels, the sea levels will still continue to rise. This is due to extreme temperature differences at the poles, which is an example of climate change already having kicked in and its effects continuing on regardless of what we do now. So we can't make icebergs again from ocean water. Once they've melted, they're gone. As sea levels rise, coastal erosion occurs, which is already affecting many low-lying countries and will in time affect coastal cities such as Vancouver, San Francisco, New York, many of these cities that are on the coast, and many of us live by the coast, so we will be affected by these. And in fact, some island nations such as the Maldives and the Marshall Islands, their existence is actually in jeopardy. Then we have countries like Bangladesh, which has a lot of low-lying topography. They are also being threatened. Coastal systems and low-lying areas will increasingly experience submergence, flooding and erosion throughout the 21st century and beyond due to sea level rise. Now, September is the month in the year when the Arctic has the least ice. It's the warmest time, and it is predicted that by 2050 the Arctic Ocean will be free of all September ice under the business as usual scenario. Now, the map on the left shows the same scenario of keeping within 2 degrees. Notice that the Arctic Ocean is warming more than the rest of the planet, caused by that continued melting of icebergs. The map on the right shows business as usual, with Canada, for example, getting much hotter than it was at the end of the 20th century, up to 7 degrees hotter, in fact. So these are what we can expect to see if we do nothing. Okay, so now that we've examined the effects of climate change and what to expect, let's focus on who is affected. And the answer is, as I've already pointed out, everyone. Everyone is affected by climate change because we all need food and water to survive. Those who are most vulnerable are the poor, who have the least power to adapt. Fields are getting flooded by sea level rise, and other land is too dry to farm now. Those living close to the sea, as I've already mentioned, are affected first. So those areas in low levels, close to sea level, are likely to be affected first. Now, I mentioned various scenarios, including a 2-degree one, and the one that most of the world's governments are planning to work to is to keep global warming within 1.5 degrees Celsius of the pre-industrial level. Following the Paris Agreement of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in 2016, IPCC produced a special report on global warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius in October 2018. Now, this report states that maintaining a temperature rise to below 1.5 degrees Celsius remains possible, but only through rapid and far-reaching transitions in energy, land, urban and infrastructure, and industrial systems. Meeting the Paris target of 1.5 degrees Celsius is possible, but would require deep emissions reductions and rapid, far-reaching and unprecedented changes in all aspects of society. In order to achieve the 1.5 degrees Celsius target, carbon dioxide emissions must decline by 45% relative to 2010 levels, reaching net zero by around 2050. What we need to do is to work with our governments at all levels to meet these targets. In addition, we as citizens need to change our lifestyle behaviours so that we each individually no longer contribute to global warming. This is entirely feasible and within our power to do so. So there we have it, the truth about climate change.